Ken, start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, September the 7th City Council meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation this afternoon will be given by Councilman Ledford. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. Tonight's a very important night for our city, and to give our invocation to start this meeting, I'd like for Dr. David Banks, if you would, to please come share a few words with us. Dr. Banks is a friend of mine from District 4, also a credible asset to our city, advocating for community and commitment and for the betterment of every person I know he comes in contact with. And I couldn't think of anybody more fitting, Dr. Banks, for you to lead us off tonight.
Excellent. Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day that you have given us. And Father, we truly ask for peace and wholeness over this city. We cover every individual. We speak health to them and we cover them. Father, we cover our new mayor, Mayor Tim Kelly, and his new administration. Continue to give them wisdom as they govern this great city. And Father, we thank you for each of the council, each district they represent. So Father, we commit this meeting to you. Give them wisdom over and discussing every agenda item. Father, we cover this city and we commit it to you and this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Banks. We have no special presentations this afternoon. Could I have a motion on the minutes? All right, we have a motion on the minutes with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hill. Councilman Ledford. Councilman Hester. Councilwoman Burrs. Councilwoman Dotley.
Yes.
Councilman Byrd. Councilwoman Coonrod. Vice Chairman Smith. Chairman Henderson.
Yes,
9 yeses.
the ayes have it. Moving now to ordinances, final reading. Madam Clerk, 5A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 5217 Hunter Road and 8627 Hilltop Drive from C2 Convenience Commercial Zone and M1 Manufacturing Zone to M1 Manufacturing Zone, subject to certain conditions.
This is second reading. Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Byrd. Councilwoman Dotley.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs. Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford. Councilwoman Hill.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith. Chairman Henderson.
Yes,
9 yeses.
so moved. Moving now to ordinances, first reading. Madam Clerk, 6A, please.
An ordinance hereinafter, also known as the fiscal year 2021-2022 operations budget, providing revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022, appropriating same to the payment of expenses of the municipal government, fixing the rate of taxation on all taxable property in the city, and the time taxes and privileges are due, how they shall be paid, when they shall become delinquent, providing for interest and penalty on delinquent taxes and privileges, amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 267, relative to paid leave for active duty training, and to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Sections 3136, 3137, 3141, and 3143, Sections 31,322 and 31,354, and to accept and appropriate federal funds for the fiscal year activities from the state and local local fiscal recovery funds provided in the American Rescue Plan Act.
The Chair of our Budget and Finance Committee, Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I make my motion, let me tell you that this has been a lot of hard work. My colleagues have been fabulous in working hard, in studying the budget, in making thoughtful decisions. Mr. Mayor, you and your staff have done an outstanding job of coming up with a budget in very challenging times and almost starting next year's budget right away. Your staff has been professional, they've been thoughtful, and they've made my job all that much more easier. To Daisy and her staff, to your chief of staff, to the head of innovation, to planning, Joda, to everything. Everybody's been it's been my pleasure to work with such a professional staff. Thank you very much. And with that, I make a motion to approve.
Councilman Ledford. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Councilman Ledford?
This is a pretty important night in the start of a new chapter for our city. And there are times in our lives that we find ourselves taking stock in priorities. Whether they're personal or work, the time comes to refocus on our goals and objectives. I know that I've done this more than once in my life, and I bet that each and every one of you have done the same. I believe the realignment of priorities is a natural and necessary occurrence from which we all grow. Further, as a city, it helps improve critical services such as public safety and infrastructure, which our city charter specifically outlines as a priority. I believe Chattanooga is in that moment now for realignment of priorities. Therefore, tremendous focus on this budget is directed at our city's most significant resources, our employees, public works, fire, and police especially. This budget also reflects an increase in road paving dollars never seen before in our city's history, something very significant to my district. And according to the annual community survey, our entire city. It still remains the number one concern. Our roads are the lifeblood to our economy and opportunities for our citizens. So we see that attention it deserves with continued focus and promises to this body. I appreciate the administration asking each department to make cuts. We do it at our house. They have done that, and it is evident if you've studied the budget at all. Savings and reevaluations continue with this process. This approach to our local government is a reflection of a background in business and customer service. And as a small business owner myself, I can see that clearly. For far too long, other governments, municipalities, and the private sector have soaked up our talent due to low pay. As a result, firefighters and police officers work second and third jobs to make ends meet. Others in our city employment leaving because they simply can't afford not to. To our first responders, and that includes you, Public Works, I thank you. East Brainerd thanks you. We will never forget your care for us. I even bet I'm safe in saying this entire council thanks you. Every day we are grateful for your commitment. Tonight we are at the crossroad of decision. I support this budget because I believe it is the right thing to do in repledging ourselves to the fundamental priorities of our city charter, which is to provide the best services we can to every Chattanoogan. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 6A with a proper second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hill,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burris,
Without a doubt.
Councilwoman Dottley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion to approve carries 9-0. All right. Madam Clerk, 6B, please.
An ordinance appropriating, authorizing, and allocating funds to the capital improvements budget for the fiscal year 2021 through 2022.
Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Ledford.
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 6B with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Dottley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, Councilwoman Hill,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Motion to approve 6B also carries 9-0. For this next item that involves short-term vacation rental application in my district, I'm going to ask our vice chair to assume the role of the chair, and I will swap seats.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Clerk, 7A, please.
A resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 21 STV R123 for property located at 432 Harper Street.
All right, is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? We do have opposition. Chairman Henderson.
Mr. Chair, I think even though that the applicant is not present, and since these people have all taken their time to come down, I would like to go ahead and hear from them as well.
If each of you would follow that row
I-
and come over to
I tell you, but before they come and speak, yeah, who is here from LDO to present the short-term application? Okay.
There we go.
All right. Would you just
to
come
the
and
mic,
give us
please.
just a brief overview of what this is, and then we'll hear from opposition. I don't know that we need a slide presentation. Can you just give us the oral version?
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Caleb Fisher, zoning inspector with the Land Development Office. I don't know what to tell you. It's outside its complete application except for an inspection, which is on hold pending council approval. If it's denied, obviously they won't go through with the inspection. Beyond that, we have had, as you see, significant opposition.
Caleb, how many letters of opposition did you receive from the office?
I believe it was, I want to say 9,
Okay.
but I can find out.
And this is an application for non-owner occupied, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Chair, if we could hear from
Yeah,
the
if you would-
opposition.
Any opposition, please come over to the lectern.
I think they get 5 minutes total.
All right, there is a total of 5 minutes, not each, but a total of 5 minutes for opposition to speak. So please be brief and allow your fellow people who are in opposition to also speak if possible. Can we get a clock up, please? Got it? All right. Sir, if you just give us your name and then please go right ahead.
My name is Richard Motto. I'm at 515 May Street in Phase 2 of North Shore. Sorry, and we do have an HOA, I'm one of the directors. We do have HOA documents. The applicant has never come to us to ask permission For the short-term rental, which talking to him, I've helped in the first place. According to section 2, residential use, number C, no unit may be used as a means of service to business establishments or adjacent property, including but not limited to supplementary facilities or an intentional passageway or entrance into a business and their tract of land, regardless of whether a part of the property unless specifically consented to by the developer or the board in writing. So the applicant has never gotten in touch with us for approval. This is a business function where he wants to rent it out. He has no intentions of living there. We don't know who this guy's going to rent it out to. We have an HOA. We all have fees due. If one of his renters causes damage, how do we prove that? So then it's upon the other residents to pick up a portion of the damage that his renters might cause. I've already heard of people throwing cigarette butts on people's cars, throwing trash out in the parking lot. There's just no limit to who or what this guy's renting to. And we don't want to be responsible as a community as a whole for paying for who he's renting to. So it's good for me.
My name's Steve Clannon. I live at 416 Ziegler. I'm right behind the unit, the proposed unit. It appears to me that they're already renting it. I see different cars there all the time. Trash is already an issue. They haven't emptied their trash bin in at least 3 weeks. I've got photos. It's already overflowing, creating an eyesore for all of us, and I'm sure it's a health concern. But it sure looks to me like they're already there.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Javon Hukassian. I live at 408 Ziegler Street, just adjacent to this property at Harper Street. I'm just going to read a little bit here. Got 2 minutes. I see this as a core problem with vacation rentals is that the real dissolution of the neighborhood. The minute an owner or long-term renter turns over a home to transient renters, that house is no longer a contributing part of the neighborhood. No longer can the permanent residents count on that house as part of neighborhood, and the house's owner transforms from a neighbor into a business owner. The residual issues in particular are loud noises and or parties which will interrupt sleep for those who have to get up and go to work early the next day, in particular families with small children. As you know, when children awake in the middle of the night, have a difficult time going back to sleep. And once again, this severely impacts them and the parents. In addition to the noise, there's always the parking issue. We have limited parking and limited street parking. This will impact the permanent residents and long-term renters who make this community their home. Lastly, we're a pretty tight neighborhood and we watch out for each other. But this will be difficult to do with such transient neighbors. We will be subject to strangers coming and going at all hours, and this will transform our friendly family neighborhood to a business transient neighborhood. A friend stated this to me, this very concerned to me, as the influx of out-of-town visitors upsets the peaceful enjoyment of long-term standing residential neighborhoods. Short-term renters have no stake in the community and therefore no reason to care how the neighborhood around them suffers from their vacation activities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any comments? Opposition? Sure.
Just to add to that, I'm Dr. Jake H. McKay, and this is a neighborhood where we even talked together to put a new tree in the front yard. You know, it's a very tight-knit community. So I think that the lack of communication about this to the group was very concerning, and just to reemphasize that. And I agree with all the other points raised. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilman Henderson, I've got a few other lights, sir. Do you want to yield to them for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is a process question. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. So code enforcement, zoning, whoever presented. Yeah, Kelly. So why would you wait to do an inspection till whether it's not, it's been approved? It would seem to me that the process would be that a full inspection would be done, and therefore you'd be able to say it's met all the criteria and it's ready to go. So I guess I need some help in understanding that.
Once we receive 4 objections, city council becomes involved and everything goes on pause for the most part until city council makes their ruling. Oftentimes there are significant renovations required as far as in older homes, small windows need to become larger, doors needing to be added, things of that nature that are cost prohibitive that they won't undertake until they know that they can actually receive the certificate.
I get that, but have
The
you made
inspection-
your inspection? I mean,
For this
I
property,
get
no.
that.
For this property, no. But they
Okay.
cannot be issued until they receive the inspection.
Do you think that might affect the decisions that people would make if you had made, are we talking about the same inspection that's in the law?
The life safety, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. My question is also a process question. When we were writing this law, Madam Attorney, we wrote in a clause that if you were in organized HOA that prohibited a business being located in your HOA, then you could not file for an application. And what I'm trying to, maybe someone threw a nod from one of your group. Is this unit, is this a house or an apartment, or is it in your HOA? Okay, then why do we not have in our process, when we get an opposition letter, if it's stated an HOA is involved here, that's an automatic decline? We're hearing from people having to defend their HOA when we clearly wrote it into our law.
The HOA requirement is included in the application portion. The applicant for this instance, and it made it that stated that there was no HOA.
But-
No condo
But as
association.
a
no
city, we
homeowners
know there's an
association.
HOA that is in the ordinance. This should not even come before us, in my opinion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Henderson?
Thank you, sir. It is disappointing that the applicant failed to be here tonight, has not contacted the residents, nor has he contacted me. That is a disappointment. Communication is vital. However, I think the fact that this group does have an HOA that prohibits a business being in the development, I think that says it all. And by the way, I appreciate you taking the time to come down and defend your properties. At this time, because they do have an HOA, active HOA that prohibits business, I'm going to move to deny.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to deny. Seeing no further lights, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Hill,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Motion to deny passes. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you for coming down. All right, Madam Clerk, moving now to 7B, please.
A resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 21 STVR 124 for property located at 208 Baker Street.
Is the applicant present for 7B? The applicant's here, okay? Is there any opposition here for item 7B? Okay. Councilwoman Hill, this is in District 2, I believe. Councilman Ledford, do you have a comment at this
I
time?
did on the previous case, sir, but I will defer until after this case to make my comment and respectfully defer to Councilwoman Hill.
Councilwoman Hill, would you like to have presentation? and
I
then-
would.
Okay. Sir, let us give a short
Oh,
presentation by Mr. Fisher.
STVR 21, 124, 208 Baker Street. Here is a showing of the surrounding STVR properties, the purple being non-owner occupied, the green being owner occupied. The blue dot is the 208 Baker
Hey,
Street.
Taylor, could I stop you right there?
Yes, sir.
Mr. IT, we're not seeing that on our screen. There we go. Continue, please.
Again, the purple dots are non-owner occupied issued applications. The green dots are owner occupied applications issued. And the blue dot is the one under consideration, 208 Baker Street. There are no other applications in process surrounding that property. Here's an aerial satellite view. This is the front of the unit. This will be down Baker and up Baker. And here's a timeline from when they applied in July of 26 or July 26 to today's city council hearing. They have done all steps. This is the only outstanding thing before they are issued. And
Thank
that
you.
is it.
All right. Could we have the applicant now? And you have 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could we have a clock, please? All right, you can begin.
Yep, I promise I won't take up the full 5 minutes. I appreciate you hearing me today. My name's Corey Gray. And I'm just going to walk you through quickly kind of what our interest is in Chattanooga, since as you might hear, I'm sure from a few folks here, that we're actually not local to Chattanooga. I had kind of by coincidence ended up in Chattanooga about around January with a friend and fell in love with your city. And so we purchased the property in the south side of Chattanooga, and our intention there was to use the property when we can, and then when we can't, short-term rent. And so what we did was we set that property up on a short-term rental website. And to my surprise, it booked a lot quicker than we had thought, because apparently we're not the only ones that have discovered Chattanooga and fall in love with the area a little bit. And so our idea with the Baker Street property was that would be a property that we spent a little bit more time in. So I've spent, we bought this property as me and 2 friends. And I've spent about 2.5 months of the last 7 months in Chattanooga. My other friends spent another 2 months. So the intention with the property that we own on the south side historic district is to leave that up as a short-term rental, because people seem to really be liking it. And then we'll use the Baker Street property, and then because it's a little cost prohibitive for us to have it unoccupied for a significant amount of time, since it is a more expensive property for the area. Our idea was to maybe have some guests in there transiently a little bit. So I was down in Chattanooga about a month and a half ago to meet several of the neighbors. Loved the street, loved the neighborhood. Gary, who's here today, took us for a little walk around the neighborhood, kind of showed us the trails. So we really like the area, and it's unfortunate we're here today, because I would have preferred to maybe address some of the concerns directly with the folks on Baker Street. But we did, so we received 2 letters. One of the letters actually had 9 people sign it that were within 300 feet of the 208 Baker Street property. A little thrown off by that, because that doesn't so seem in the spirit or intent of the way the ordinance and process is written. The level of effort to kind of walk around with a petition and have that signed by 9 or 10 people is a little different than actually writing a letter of objection. That letter of objection was very short and sweet, so I think it was maybe 2 sentences in total. And so I was hoping to address the concerns from the folks on Baker Street here. And then if we're lucky enough to be granted the short-term rental permit, we of course will be good fiduciaries of the property and work that out with the folks on Baker Street. So the 3 things that were mentioned there, one was parking on Baker Street. And so we do have 3 parking spots, and we've never really had more than 2 guests at our property or 2 cars at our property in the South Side Historic District, and we could restrict that for sure, and would do that. As far as noise go, we didn't get a whole lot of notice for this hearing. It kind of jumped in for, we didn't receive the letter till Thursday, and I actually live part-time in Boston. But we would have, we've had no noise complaints. And so we know almost all our neighbors on the South Side. One person's kid helps us take the trash out when we're not around, and a few other folks help us look after the property. And I call probably once every 2 weeks a different neighbor on our street to find out if there's been any issues, since this was our first time doing short-term rentals, and there's never been any neighbors, any challenges with the neighbors, and they've all been very supportive of us having the property there. The third issue, it's a little harder for me to address because it's a little bit more abstract. That was raised as the character of the neighborhood. I don't know if there's a logical argument that I could use for that, other than to say that we've really been a part of the neighborhood in the South Side, and that we'd love to be a part of the neighborhood on Baker Street, and that's actually probably where we'll spend more time for sure. The only other thing I have, and I apologize, wasn't quite sure about the process for this hearing, so I didn't print out enough of these, but if you're interested, most of our bookings are via Airbnb, and so I actually took it. When you get a booking on Airbnb, you get a screenshot, or you get a message saying, hey, we're coming to your property and this is why. Because of that, I took a selection of, not a selection, I just took the last 20 or so messages. And so you can kind of see the type of folks that we have. It's usually people dropping their kids off to school. We haven't had any partiers. We had one person asked to have a party, and we told them that our property wouldn't be.
You did manage to use your 5 minutes.
Yep, I guess so, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the time.
All right, at this time, I'm going to ask the opposition if they would come. Well, that's what the last fellow said. Go ahead and give us 5 minutes on the clock.
I'm trying not to be as long-winded, but there's a lot to address. Anyway, I'm at 206 Baker Street. I'm in at Kelly. It's actually a townhouse, but there is no HOA, and I'm an attorney. So I do think the covenants between the 2 properties, being a single family dwelling, might be questionable. I don't think it's actually been addressed in this area. But the other concerns are, Baker Street actually is very thin. It almost should be a one-way because we have so many people parking on the street going the same direction. It's even hard for us to back out of the driveway. So although there are considerably 3 parking spaces, one is inside of the garage. The other person would have to back out to let the person out of the garage. And then, as well as for renters, there's also visitors, and there's just not enough parking on that street. We have the same issue for our unit. I live there with my family. We have a child. We share a backyard. There's no separation in the backyard. There's no separation in the front yard. I haven't personally met the new owner. I was out of town when he was in town for the couple of days that he was there. So I can't say anything about him personally, but my immediate concerns are, number one, we had to tell them that they had to mow their lawn. Actually, we said, we'll just get the lawn care and split it since y'all are out of town. Number two, I know they don't have any pest control yet either. And I personally am not interested in managing an Airbnb next door. Somebody gets locked out, they're automatically going to come into our door. I'm sure if they can't get somebody on the phone immediately. We had somebody in we've only lived there a few months, but somebody across the street had an Airbnb and they came to our house because they got locked out of the Airbnb. I don't know why our house, but they did. So I have a full-time job. I work long hours. I don't want parties next door. It's not interesting to me. And anyway, we have other neighbors here who've lived in the neighborhood longer. It's a very tight neighborhood, so I'll turn it over.
My name is Alan Mangan. I live at 209 Baker Street, straight across the street. All that my friend Annette has said is true. The street is small. If cars are going in both directions, which they do, sometimes there's a lot of backing up to do because there is no space for someone to pull in. There's been construction in the street where these houses are built, which caused a lot of annoyance to the residents. But the previous objectors voiced many of the concerns that residents have in places like this for short-term vacation rental. I was out of town for over a month and missed the notices and so on, but I was kept aware of it. And I was told initially that it was almost like it was surreptitious the way they put a sign in the window sideways or upside down, but that didn't endear them to the neighborhood immediately. Anyway, that's my submission. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gary Roach. I'm at 210 Baker, which is right next door. So I'd like to reiterate a lot what the first group said, that the community, that it is a community, and I think that's why we all live on our neighborhood where we're at. It's a community. So several of things that I want to go over with. He showed a dot of a purple that says it's a non-occupied, but actually it's a 2-story. So the occupant does live up top. It's just underneath. So I think that was just a little off. Then I want to talk about these. These letters were never sent out in time. My wife actually had to email somebody and then letters were sent out. So the whole thing was shady in the beginning. And then the notice, the signs posted was upstairs on the top floor, sideways. Nobody could read that. So finally we were saying, oh, something's happening right now. I got 30 seconds. Let's see real quick. So I did meet this fine gentleman, but they presented themselves as, hey, we're your new owners. Hey, we are your brand new neighbors. We had no idea. Okay, great. So we showed him around. And I did ask, and my wife asked, we thought it was going to be an Airbnb. Oh, no one really wants that. And she said, well, we'll just take it to the boat. Like they knew exactly we would be here. So I mean, we all oppose it because we really want community, family. That's why we're here. So, I mean, not a lot.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gray, you are not the individual on the application. Help me understand the situation, please.
Come back to the podium, please.
Yep, PIN is on the application. So I do have something here saying that I can
So,
represent, but
so PIN is in Monterey Park, California, and you said you're in Boston
Yep.
and you have a third partner?
Yeah, his name is John, who also lives in Boston.
He
So,
also lives in
yeah,
Boston?
so we bought the property together.
You know, Baker Street is, it is all the things the residents say it is. It's a very tight-knit community. It is, which I'm glad that you were welcomed there when they thought you were going to be their neighbor. It's very difficult to drive up and down. While it's not a one-way street, it often functions as one. I'm glad that you like Chattanooga. I have to say, I'm a little perturbed on behalf of my neighbors in District 2 that you would question their effort to go door to door and talk to their neighbors about something that was important to them, while questioning our process here in Chattanooga and implying that we didn't give you enough time while you live in Boston to come and talk to your neighbors door to door. If it was enough, if it wasn't too difficult for them, I don't think it would have been too difficult for you. Also, I did not get any kind of communication from you, despite the fact that I've been getting repeated emails from this neighborhood. So I wish you well with your Southside property, and I welcome you to Baker Street, but I move to deny this short-term rental application. And I will add I am not opposed to short-term rentals in general, but this does not feel like one that is going to be in the appropriate place, especially when we look at this being potentially occupied by 8 people.
Sure. And I meant,
So-
I meant no disrespect.
Sir.
Apologies.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
And at this time, I'm going to ask for a second. We have a second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, Councilwoman Hill, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
Motion to deny carries 9-0.
I appreciate
Thank you,
the
sir.
time. Thank you.
Moving now to Parks and Public Works, Madam Clerk, 7C, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract CSOTF Improvements Project, project numbers W18007, W18004, and W19011, a consent decree project to Ruby Collins, Inc. of Smyrna, Georgia, in the contract amount of $9,364,073, plus a contingency amount of $936,400 for an amount not to exceed $10,300,473.
Councilman Ledford, I think you had a light on before I asked for the reading.
I did, sir, and I appreciate the opportunity before Caleb left. Caleb, real quick, and if you don't mind, I'm detecting some procedural deficiencies here. If we could take a deeper dive into our process. Number one, I'm concerned about the HOAs not being an automatic trigger, and I think there's some communication gaps, and we may need to look at if we could kind of talk offline a little bit. I would love to try to figure out a solution to what I heard tonight.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank
Chairman,
you.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Council. My apologies. Does any council person need this item read again? Okay, if not, what is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 7C with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments regarding this item? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hill, Councilman Ledford, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
9 yeses.
motion to approve item 7C does carry. Moving now to purchases. Julia? Council, if you will take out your purchases for this afternoon.
Good evening, council. We have 3 purchases this evening. The first is from Community Development. This is to amend the May 25th, 2021 purchase for temporary non-congregant homeless shelter rooms and security to include the award to SEI for security services at the Super 8 location. The award for security services goes to SEI Security, and the total annual cost estimate for both the shelter rooms and security is $200,000. The second is for Public Works. This is a sole source procurement from OpenGov for a reporting and transparency platform, as well as a premium support package. The total annual cost is $23,683.32. The third and final purchase is from the mayor's office for RFP 200016. Police Chief Search Consultant was conducted. 3 bids were requested and 3 bids were returned. Proposals were reviewed and scored, and the highest scoring proposal was from Police Chief Executive Research Forum, also known as PERF. The evaluation committee recommends to council that the award be made to PERF for an amount not to exceed $60,000.
All right, thank you, ma'am. What is the pleasure of the council? Got a lot. Let me take the lot first. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like for it to be separate, the police chief executive research, if we can separate it.
Okay, you would like to separate the police chief executive research form?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to separate the police chief research form. Do I have a second? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, Councilwoman Hill, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
6 yeses.
Okay. So we will separate the police chief executive research forum out. That will leave 2 other items. So at this time, could I have a motion on the first 2 items only, please? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the first 2 items of tonight's purchase with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hill, Councilman Ledford, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
9 yeses.
All right, motion to approve first 2 purchase items does carry. Now I will open the floor for the third item, the Police Chief Executive Research Forum. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we have great leadership within our police department currently that do not want for us to do a national search. And we have people that's been in our police department for years and who have worked really hard to become a police chief. And I think we should start practicing our very own words, and that's looking within our own house and elevating the people that we currently do have, instead of trying to go outside of that and recruiting and looking for other people. So with that, I move to deny.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. At this time, I will take questions or comments. Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Chief, I've got a question. I don't know that there's anybody that would deny Councilwoman Coonrod's comments about the people that we currently have here in the city of Chattanooga serving in the police department. With that, if we move forward with a national search, does that exclude any local candidates from applying and being equal, if not greater consideration during the search?
No, sir.
So anybody who wishes to apply from the city of Chattanooga has, again, equal or even better opportunity for achieving the role of police chief.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone of any rank.
Appreciate it.
All right, any other questions or comments before we vote? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod,
And let me clarify, this is a motion to deny. So a yes vote would be to deny.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Dotley,
No.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilman Hester,
No.
Councilman Ledford, Councilwoman Hill, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
No.
7 noes.
Okay, the motion to deny failed. Do I have a motion on the floor since that motion failed? Councilwoman Hill.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the Police Chief Research Forum with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? This is a motion to approve. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hill, Councilman Ledford, Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs, Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd, Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith, Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Motion to approve carries 7-2. I think that concludes tonight's purchases. Moving now to committee reports. Councilwoman Hill. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning and zoning did meet today where we went over all of our items on our agenda and had a quick zoning assessment update.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Hester?
Parks and Public Works did meet today, and we will meet again in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burrs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The budget passed our first reading. Look forward to second reading.
Thank you, ma'am. Vice Chair Smith? Councilwoman Dotley?
Equity and Community Development will meet next week.
Okay, fine. Councilman Byrd?
Thank you, Chair. We were set to have a public safety meeting for the 21st, and due to some scheduling, we may be changed to the 28th.
Okay,
I'll be waiting on your response from that.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Coonrod? All right, that concludes tonight's agenda items. Mr. Mayor, thank you for sticking it out with us this afternoon. We're now to the part of the agenda that we recognize persons wishing to address the council. Would you like to address the council this afternoon?
I hadn't planned to, Chairman, but let me just say thank you. I thank you for your confidence in the administration and our plans and our hard work. I think we do have a great staff, and we look forward to this setting the trajectory and the agenda for a great term. So again, thank you for all the work that you put into it. I really appreciate your faith and confidence in us, and we look forward to a bright future for Chattanooga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Are there any persons in the audience physically present with us this afternoon that would like to address the council? Okay, I see one. We do have a couple on Zoom that would like to address us this afternoon. So, Madam Attorney, would you read the rules to engage the council, please?
Yes, those of you who wish to address council, please form a line behind the podium. Live speakers will be addressed first, followed by the Zoom participants. Each speaker can address the council only on matters within the legislative and quasi-judicial scope of the council, and we will be limited to 3 minutes.
All right, and the council did vote to limit the total amount of time for public engagement to be 1 hour. So that'll put us right about the 8 o'clock hour if it needs to go that long. I'll take those present that are with us here physically first. So if you'd like to come to the podium and give us your name and district number, please.
Thank you, Council. Monty Bell, the homeless journalist, the gray-haired fox at the District 8. And I do appreciate you allowing me to come back this time. I apologize for my appearance. I've just been dumpster diving. It's a wonderful profession. Tonight, the 727 East 11th Street encampment. And I'd like to say, while I'm facing the council, I do appreciate our city mayor being here tonight. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We do need a director of some sort at our community kitchen. We have to have a director of some sort at our 727 East 11th Street encampment. I've taken the position that that would be me, the great communicator. On last Thursday, I had the pleasure of attending a court proceeding for one of our encampers, a young lady that I took a photograph with when our District 8 representative came to our encampment for the very first time. Excuse me. On Thursday, I had the pleasure of attending her court hearing. After that, I was surprised by the number of persons within the courtroom, within the court building, that asked Monty Bell if he could represent them. I'm not an attorney by any stretch of the imagination. Our District 8 representative had his pleasure of watching those coming down the elevator, trailing Monty Bell out of the court's building to see if he could represent them. I've never tried to represent anyone. I'm not a licensed attorney. I am a fantastic journalist and a researcher, and we're going to put those skills to use. We have something for the first time, we being the 727 East 11th Street encampment, the Thurgood Marshall Award. We've, as a city and a county and a state, we awarded that to Neil Pinkston through the hands of the NAACP, which was not where that award should have gone. So I did some research, and I'm going to ask the assistance of our city attorney to see if she can assist me in bringing a young lady from Washington, D.C. to our city, to our encampment, to help us, the homeless encampment, present this Thurgood Marshall Award to one of our judges. And that can happen. And we want Judge Gary Starnes to receive this award because he did something unprecedented for me on last Thursday. You never hear me talk this way about our judges and never about our attorneys. But I want to get with our city attorney as soon as possible to see if we can't fit this award, the Thurgood Marshall Award, to a judge who has shown a young lady who never thought that she would receive justice a day in her life. The only thing that she said to me since last Thursday, no court costs, no fines, no return to court. And I thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else physically present with us here this afternoon that would like to address the council? Anyone else? Okay. If not, we will turn to our audience that are joining us remotely. Mr. Vice Chair, are you bringing them in or is our clerk? Okay. It's my understanding that the first 4 have registered, all 5. Okay. All right. And if anyone else that is joining us online has registered to speak that would like to address the council this afternoon, if you'd go ahead and raise your hand at this time, would you bring in Miss Ann Pierre?
Good evening. Thank you, City Council, for allowing us to speak before you. My name is Ann Pierre, and I'm the current president of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County NAACP branch, and I reside in District 9. I come before you today with the support of other local grassroots organizations, such as the Unity Group, individual ministers, former elected officials, current elected officials, and community activists. In addition, I will email to the Secretary of the Council Executive Order 13985 for the official record that supports our comments today. I paraphrase, Presidential Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy, and our diversity is one of our country's greatest strengths. But for too many, the American dream remains out of reach. Entrenched disparities in our laws, public policies, and public and private institutions have often denied equal opportunity to individuals and communities. Our country faces converging economic, health, and climate crises that have exposed and exacerbated inequities. While a historic movement for justice has highlighted the unbearable human costs of systemic racism, our nation deserves an ambitious whole of government equity agenda that matches the scale of the opportunities and challenges that we face today. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, Ms. Sheila Harris, please. Good afternoon, Ms. Harris. Can you hear us?
Good afternoon. Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Reverend Dr. Sheila Harris. I'm the pastor of St. James AME Church, and I reside in District 3. I stand before you on behalf of the NAACP and the community at large. According to Section 8 of the Executive Order, engagement with members of underserved communities, the order is to be carried out by consulting with communities that have been historically underrepresented and underserved by are subject to discrimination. Opportunities should have been made to increase coordination, communication, and engagement with community-based and civil rights organizations. Research shows that closing racial gaps in wealth, wages, homeownership, lending, and access to higher education would amount to an additional 5 trillion in GDP. Economic research has shown that radical racial inequality costs the economy over $16 trillion in the last 20 years. We strongly suggest we are all understand and place Executive Order 13985, signed by President Joseph Biden on January 20th, 2021, as a rule for the allocation of funds under your control. My question is as follows. What plans do you have to properly allocate the $40 million the city of Chattanooga has already received from the American Rescue Plan? Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And I would ask that you, if you could, email or contact our Chief of Staff, Brent Goldberg. There is a plan in place to engage the citizens on how to appropriate these dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, Steve Cottle. All right, sir, can you hear us? If you can, unmute your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I think we have a third presenter, Marie Mott. She not available?
Hold on one second. Mr. IT, could you turn up the volume just a little bit? I could hear him, but still not able to make him out completely. Sir, could you start over?
All right, can you hear me now?
A little bit, yeah. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead. My name is Steve Cottle. I'm pastor of the Greater Second Missionary Baptist Church. In continuance of the presentation, we want you to know that we are prepared to be actively engaged and support you in distributing funds to Black-owned businesses and nonprofits. Doing so will facilitate improvements to enhance job readiness training programs, STEM programs, after-school programs, provide rental and utility bill assistance, food pantries, tutoring, small business support, economic development, and violence interruption. Please note that these funds should not be allotted to infrastructure projects, as there is a pending bill to address infrastructure needs. By advancing equity, we can create opportunities for historically underserved communities, which benefits everyone. This is per President Joseph R. Biden Jr., the White House, January 20th, 2021. There are 4 questions that we wish to have addressed. Number 1, what plans do you have to properly allocate the $40 million the city of Chattanooga has already received from the American Rescue Plan? 2, how will you ensure these funds will be equitably distributed to the local Black community? 3, how have city council representatives engaged the underserved members of our community? And then 4, what actions have you taken to gather data to assess the needs of our communities? If you have not begun the process, what is your timeline to get this accomplished? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Vice Chair, Marie Mott, please.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Good evening, we can.
Hi, my name is Marie Mott, community activist, a member of the Unity Group and local NAACP chapter, and I reside in District 8. It is therefore the policy of my administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. Affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and equal opportunity is a responsibility of the whole of our government. Because advancing equity requires a systemic approach to embedding fairness in decision-making processes, executive departments and agencies must recognize and work to redress inequities in their policies and programs to serve as barriers to equal opportunity. By advancing equity across the federal government, we can create opportunities to improve historically underserved communities, which benefits everyone. For example, An analysis shows that closing racial wealth gaps in wages, housing credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in the gross domestic product in the American economy just over the next 5 years. The federal government's goal in advancing equity is to provide everyone with the equal opportunity to reach their full potential. Consistent with these aims, each agency must assess to the extent to which each programs and policies perpetuate systemic barriers to opportunities and benefits for people of color and other underserved groups. Such assessments will better equip agencies to develop policies and programs that deliver resources and benefits equitably to all. And so the question is, how will you ensure that these funds will be equitably distributed to the local Black community? Section 2 definition, the term equity means the consistent and systemic fairness, just and impartial treatment of individuals, including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Blacks, and persons otherwise adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. B, the term underserved communities refers to populations sharing a particular characteristic as well as geographic communities that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Thessalya White.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Go ahead.
Good evening, Council. My name is Thessalya White. I am the Vice President of the NAACP chapter here in Chattanooga, NAACP branch. Section 8 of Executive Order 13985, engagement with members of underserved communities. I apologize. I represent District 6. In carrying out this order, agencies shall consult with members of communities that have been historically underrepresented in the federal government and underserved by or are subject to discrimination in federal policies and programs. The head of each agency shall evaluate opportunities consistent with applicable law to increase coordination, communication, and engagement with community-based and civil rights organizations. How has City Council representatives engaged the underserved members of our community? Section 9, establishing an equitable data working group. Many federal data sets are not desegregated by race, ethnicity, gender, disability, income, veteran status, or other key demographic variables. This lack of data has cascading effects and impedes efforts to measure and advance equity. A first step to promoting equity in government action is to gather the data necessary to inform that effort. What actions have you taken to gather data to assess the needs of our community? If you have not begun this process, what is your timeline to get this accomplished? Thank you, Council.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else joining us electronically that would like to address the council at this time? Would you please raise your hand? I would ask, is there anyone present with us here physically this afternoon that would like to address the council? Would you raise your hand? Council, I'm not seeing anybody present nor electronically that would like to, Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. It was a lot said just now, and a lot of times we will go ahead and adjourn without making sure that a common narrative is definitely put out there. Can I ask Brent to come up for a second? I just want to ask some questions about some things that were said. And thank you, Chief. A lot of times, not a weight, but a stronghold is put on the council to address certain situations that we may have nothing to do with at the time. So first I wanted to ask, have we received $40 million? Is that true?
No, sir. Our allocation is just over $39 million. We have received just over $19 million to date.
So we have received just 19.
Yeah, the remaining funds will be received next year. It's a 2-year disbursement from the federal government.
Okay, so we have just received 19. We don't have 40 million right now from them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So that was a good point. Does this body, when it comes to you allocating or doing those funds, I know a lot of the parameters that were put in place for you to have to distribute those funds. Do you have to come to this body for us to vote on how you distribute those funds?
Yes, we will come to city council for a budget approval through the budget approval process because these funds will all have to be budgeted. And then you also approve any major purchases that are made with these funds. And the other thing I would say is we will have a full community engagement process around these funds, including setting up an equity commission that will help us build a framework around these funds. We're not there yet. We're still waiting on final federal guidance. So far, we only have the interim final guidance. We expect to get the final guidance any day now. I mean, we should get it sometime this month. And then we will begin working on the process to get feedback, set up the equity commission, go through the process of creating a budget for these funds. You know, there'll be different buckets within the funds. It could be anything from small business support to specifically minority small business support or specifically Black small business support, all the way to infrastructure. There's going to be different things we can do with this. We need to wait for the final guidance in order to be able to determine exactly what we will be able to use the funds for.
And once we receive that final guidance, that will tell us what and which framework we can work with the money and what we can do legally and what we can't do legally. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we heard a lot from the NAACP with the administration, because I don't think this council, I don't know, can we tell you? I would encourage, because I would like for you to engage with them, but to say, hey, definitely reach out to the NAACP to make sure that they're a part of this so that they can, have a seat at the table to express what they would like to see as well.
Yes, and I think that will be accomplished through the Equity Commission.
Thank you so much, Brent. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Well, we had a hand up on our Zoom. Okay, I'm going to give here we go. Mr. Vice Chair, Elizabeth Cotalisi, I believe is how you might say that last name.
Good evening, Council. This is Elizabeth Cotalisi. You're close. I'm Director of Baby University. I live in District 2, and I just wanted to thank the Council for helping us serve Chattanooga residents and for being a part of building a more equitable community in underserved communities. And also to say, please know that we welcome any accountability, of course, that you may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else joining us electronically this afternoon or here physically that would like to address the council at this time? Council, I am not seeing any other hands. What's the pleasure of the council? We are adjourned.